Hello, and welcome to the Healing Element Podcast. I am your host, Kai Marie, and I'm so excited that you are joining me for this wonderful conversation we're going to have with my wonderful guest, Irene Baker. We have worked together for a number of years and have developed a very special friendship. So I'm very excited and honored to have her on the platform. Before we dive in, I just want to let you know that if you are new to the podcast, you can catch new episodes every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this is a place that you can come to learn how you can prioritize your mind, body, and spirit. Also wanted to let you know that starting February, every last Tuesday, we will have our financial wellness segment. We'll have my hubby on, Dwayne. He will join us, and we're going to be talking about all things cryptos. So if that's of interest to you, please make sure you join us. And again, that's every last Tuesday on the Healing Element Podcast. With that being said, today we're talking about redefining success. What does success mean to you? I'm sure so many of you have seen so many changes happening with people leaving their jobs and just really wanting to find careers or opportunities that really support who they are. And so that's what led us to the conversation that we're having today with Irene Baker. She is a yoga instructor and owner of Peaceful Baker Yoga. Irene, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Kai. I'm so excited to be here. My face hurts. I'm smiling so much. So it's so good to see you.
Good to see you too. And I know that we've been talking about this opportunity for a long time. So I'm so happy to have you on, and we can begin to talk a lot about all the transitions that you've gone through. And I know that people that are listening, that they can definitely relate to a lot of what we're going to be talking about tonight. So for those that are watching, if you have any comments, please feel free to drop them right in the comment box. Also, if you have any questions, and also if you find that this information resonates with you, please be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and also share the content. Okay, so now we've kind of got all the house cleaning out of the way. Irene, please introduce yourself to the Healing Element Podcast family.
Sure. My name is Irene Baker, and as it sounds so nuts when you say she's the owner of Peaceful Baker Yoga, because it's me and my camera and my laptop and my lights, and but it is my students and my community. So and I certainly don't feel ownership over that. So it's just such a weird place to be. I am a yoga instructor. I'm an attorney. I would say a recovering attorney, but I still don't want to kind of put out of the box the idea that I might practice again at some point actively. And so I'm a daughter. I'm a sister. I am a exceptional Annie to my beautiful niece and nephew. And, I really honestly, I got out ahead of the game in the whole quit your job and change your lifestyle pre-pandemic in 2019. And in the fall, left my job with a financial institution, JP Morgan Chase, and decided it was time for me to do something really different. And my timing was impeccable because, not 6 months later, or really, I left in the end of 2019, not 3 months later, the world had shut down. And, my vision for what I was going to do, like a lot of people, was just completely different. But here I was embarking on this huge life change, and I was, it was just completely shifted. It was a total shift, and everybody was going through such a dramatic shift in their lives. It was really jarring. I'll just say that. So I had made this big decision, and I'm sure we'll get to why and how and what that looked like for me. But now I think who I am and where I am is really 100%, 180 degrees different than where I was not 2 years ago. And while when I left my job, I thought that would be true, it's completely different for so many different reasons. So I am a yoga instructor. I am a business owner. I'm an entrepreneur, which is, that's not what I ever thought I would be. It's not my vision, was never my vision. And so I have so many things I could say. I could just go on and on, but I'm sure we'll get to all of it. And
Yes, for sure. We want to get into that transition because as we were kind of talking in the green room, just as that many people can probably relate to maybe having those feelings of, okay, I have the career, I have the position, but I feel like there's something more. And so what do you do when you're in that in that space? How do you explain that to other people when they may not really understand that? And so you, I think, show how you define what success means to you and what it looks like. And it doesn't have to look like maybe how it looks like for everyone else. So if you could, before we kind of dive into that transition that you went through, if you could talk to like your younger self, if you would, about what success means, what would you say? What would those words be?
You know, I don't think I would have listened to myself, like,
Right.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, old lady, whatever you got. Um, you know, I think success, I grew up in I live in the neighborhood I grew up in Queens, and it's a working class neighborhood, and you worked in, you got up every day and you did your job. And, in my family, it never mattered what it really, honestly, I mean, my family was always really proud of me. But I don't think really mattered what I was doing as long as I was happy and felt good about what I was doing. And I don't think they cared what I made. I don't think never asked. They never knew. It's the question my family was always like, do you have benefits?
Mhm.
And that fundamental, you know, growing up in a local 3 IBEW, the Electrical Workers Union, like you put in a fair day's labor for a fair day's pay, and you do your job and you work hard and you show up. And, I this concept of branching out on my own and doing my own thing just never really occurred to me. It just, I started working at a young age, and I got my working papers and I got a job, and I went to school at City University, and I went to St. John's University for law school on a scholarship, and I had a lot of great opportunities. But, I did all my higher education in a 1 mile radius of my home, right? Like, I am a hometown girl. And so those values stick with me. And, so you did the next job, and you just, I was a waitress. Somebody was I was a political science major. You got hired at the local congressman's office. I did constituent relations. I did, ran local campaigns, and,
Mhm.
I was a great project manager. Like, give me the thing, I'll do the thing, I'll execute. I am like, taskmaster extraordinaire. Um, and it was always on to the next thing, right? What's the next thing? And there's this momentum that kind of takes over. And, then you're in a career. And you know, I, I guess I thought about it, but maybe not. And I think if I were to tell my 20-year-old self something, for example, I'd be like,
Mhm.
you got time.
Mhm.
I actually think it's like my 30-something-year-old self that needs to calm down.
Uh-huh.
Like, calm down. Like, it doesn't all have to happen tomorrow. You're not in charge. Like,
Mhm.
it's not your fault. Like, it's gonna be okay. I think that's the person I would say, like, roll it back a little bit. Like, take a deep breath. She's the one who needed the yoga. She's the one who needed the mindfulness. And, you know, I think that's what I would say. Like, easy does it. Like, that's a real thing. Like,
Mhm.
like, it's all going to work out, and it's not all on you. And I am so blessed that I have a wonderful family and friends, and I had incredible colleagues, you among them.
Mhm.
Like, in
Oh, thank
all
you.
of
Yeah.
these high intensity, high profile jobs you and I, and I'm sure many
Mhm.
others, where you feel like everything is life or death,
Right.
you know, taking that time. And for other people, for me, it was work, right? I was always working, work hard, play hard. I was always doing something. And for other people, it's family, or it's, raising a family or getting married and having children. And as my friend, pardon my French, Jenny always says, like, you're in the shit. Like when you have little kids,
Mhm.
like you and your partner, whoever they are, is like you
Yeah.
are in it and you are just keeping your head above water, and it's hard. And everybody's got their own version of hard. And for me, it was all very much career and achievement and what that looks like and ambition. And I always was looking for the other thing. And
Mhm.
I fantasized what I'll just be a yoga teacher. I didn't even practice yoga. Like, who had time for that?
Right. Yeah. Who had time for self-care?
Right.
That
Like,
was definitely on the back burner.
right. And I also love now the definition of self-care, right? It's not getting your nails done or getting a spa day. And it's that. But
Right.
it's also like, are you taking time off? Are you unplugging? Are you going to therapy? Are you doing all these things? Like, and look, we're talking 20 years ago. I don't know that we talk the way we talk now, and we have the conversations we have, or at least
Mhm.
you and I certainly have. And I think
Right.
you know, I think it's just a different time. And when I think for me, I was always looking, I had a very good life and I had a great career and I had incredible colleagues. But somehow I always was looking for the thing, like the other thing. Like I bought a book. I wish I could find it. I swear I wish I kept
Mhm.
it. I'm going to look it up. It was like, I don't know what I want, but I know it's not this. And it was a little guy with a beard and a
Uh-huh.
cubicle with like a palm tree. And
Uh-huh.
he's in his cubicle, this cube farm, and it's like a palm tree. And I'm like, I so related to that. I was like, I had no idea what I wanted, but I'm talking, this was when I was 30 and now I'm 47. And this is what I was feeling, like this idea that, oh, what is it? I don't know what it is. And it was just, I was successful
Mhm.
and I worked at a big law firm. And then I got a great job offer at a private company and, publicly traded company, and got to learn a lot about investing and business, and then went back into government. Like it was this
Mhm.
weird arc that had not, I wouldn't say no rhyme or reason. It was a really unique approach for an attorney. And when people say, yo, do you practice law? And I'm like, not really, not since I left a big law firm
Mhm.
like 20 years ago. So it's just, but I always knew there was something else. So I'm kind of on this very good, upwardly mobile trajectory, but I had no idea where it was taking me. And I don't know that I ever took time to have a vision for it. And
Mhm.
I would take yoga and I would do cleanses, or, you know, go, try vegan for a little while, or do the Whole30 or dry January, or all these different things to navigate. And it never clicked. And
Yeah.
in 2019, I had this kind of moment where I was like, there's something off.
Mhm.
And my sister, who is my best friend, and, that's where I have such gratitude,
Mhm.
um, called me on it and was
Mhm.
like, if not now, when?
Yeah.
And I was coming off of a really busy time at work. And I hit the pause button and had a really honest conversation that I'm really grateful for to this day.
Mhm.
Um, so I'll stop talking there for a moment. Just
No, that's so awesome because I think it's almost as though where many of us when we get out of high school, right? It's that, well, what do you do next? You got to go to college. So then you go to college. Well, what do you do after college? There is no time to pause. There is no time to take a moment and say, okay, what do I really want to do? It's that you got to get a job. So after you go to college, let's say you get a higher degree, whether it's law school, master's, the next thing is a job. After you get that job, okay, now that I have this job, I have to get either work on getting a higher salary, or I have to get another job with better salary. Like there's just the next thing. You don't even really have time to, you may enjoy the moment, but your mind is still thinking about, but I got to make sure I keep moving forward to the next thing. And what you said, just having that moment of pause, I think that's so important. And I will say, I mean, this, I don't want to say the the panorama. I think that's how people are saying it. So their YouTube channels don't get hit. But that has caused, I mean, it had caused a whirlwind of hurt and pain, but it has also caused a moment for us to pause and say, okay, what is important to me? What, I was able to spend more time with my family now because working from home, let's say. Do I enjoy this? Is this something that I want to now be a part of my regular life, and not just the only time I see my family is on vacation? And you and I know and know that in those high profile type of positions, even when you're on vacation, you still have your phone. Like, you're still responding to emails and you're never really totally away. So I think that's beautiful that you had a moment to pause, which doesn't mean you have it all figured out. It just means I'm taking a moment to just stop.
Yeah. It was, and it's funny because now you feel like people have had this opportunity to work from home. And yet what I find is people, particularly my former colleagues, there's a lot of anybody who works, right? The boundaries are gone. Like, you can't walk out of the office or walk away from a situation without that, the boundaries are gone, and the time boundaries, really more importantly, are gone. And how do you create space for yourself when we're all stuck at home and your kids are being homeschooled and your partner is in the dining room and you're in the second bedroom and the kids are homeschooling? Maybe you have help, maybe you don't. Sometimes I don't know which is worse sometimes, like, having kids at home and with help, or not having help, or family coming in. I do think those boundaries get really skewed. And when there's a sense of urgency in everything, when everything's urgent, nothing's urgent. When everybody's in charge, nobody's in charge. And it's just, everything urgent is just, you're in that fight or flight mode all the time because of email. Like, it was meant to protect us from tigers, but it's, our email is causing that same response in our bodies that's really damaging long term. And so, but not everybody can step away. Like, I don't know what I was thinking, honestly. Like, as I said, I worked all the time, and I did travel, I did a lot of things, but in hindsight, I always feel like life takes you on these very strange journeys. And the last job I had an incredible amount of support and encouragement from my team. And I decided to pursue my yoga teacher training, right? I was out with some girlfriends and I was like, I want to teach yoga. I don't know what, I don't know that I complained about work. I'm sure my friends would say, yeah, you did.
We all have.
I certainly was like, I don't know what I want to do. Is this it? I don't know. And I would have these great jobs and people were like, what's your problem? And I talked to a friend of mine about yoga teacher training. I was like, I don't know, this program started, but I don't know, it's late. And, she's like, do it. Like, what's your problem? Like, shut up or go. Like, you've got the option. You figured it out. Do it. And I was like, all right, like, fine, I will. So I did. And I did it on the weekends while I was still working. My sister and I got our health coaching certification from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. That's online before online was a thing. And, I kind of was laying, and I didn't realize it at the time, but I was laying groundwork for changes that were to come in my life. And I really, in hindsight, I can say that, but at the moment I was just doing the next thing. Like, I know this isn't it. What can I do? And I called up this yoga studio, and my sister and brother-in-law have a place upstate. And I called them and I was like, hey, you at this yoga teacher? Like, of course, million miles an hour at them. Like, the two of the most lovely yoga teachers. They are such talented professionals and just gifted teachers. And I mean, really, I was so blessed. And, but I'm like, coming at them, and they're like, yes, we'd be happy to have you. We don't usually let people in who've never practiced in our studio. Like, talk about like divine intervention. I'll just call it divine intervention, but whatever. The universe was working in my favor and brought me to this studio that was, in upstate New York, totally random, Ashtanga based. I didn't know what that was. I just like, let me show up. I came crashing into that class that first weekend. It was me and 2 other guys. Their class size was normally 16. There were 3 of us. And you want to talk about intensive? 2 teachers, 2 plus guest teachers, and all these. I mean, and these guys were serious. Like, I came after the first weekend, I couldn't lift my arms up over my head, like, because I'd done so many down dogs. And as I look back, like, it changed my life. It was like, I'm in the midst of this job that's intense and a lot of work, and I'm so proud of the work we did. But at the same time, I'm like doing this other thing that is yoga that I thought was one thing and really became something so completely different for me in this journey that I didn't, like, I think like everybody else, you're like, it's a fitness, mindful, new agey thing. And, it's a spiritual path, and not to get like, very, but it is. I'm not going to apologize for it. That's what it is. And it, to me, crosses all denominations. Like, it is a way of living that is not just about, because trust me, I can't do a handstand. Like, I am not the yoga teacher. If you are looking to turn yourself into that is not me. Asana is one part. And I feel really blessed that the studio I went to, that I picked out of the phone book, for lack of a better, that it was what it was. And it really gave me what I feel like is a respectful foundation for the history of yoga and the path that it lays out for how to live. I don't have it right. Like, it's, progress, not perfection, right? We just, but to know that this is my, I don't know, like, it's being of service. I feel like if I were to say nothing else, like, I feel like I always wanted to do good in the world, like, super Pollyanna, whip out my Pollyanna berets. And, I want to do good in the world. And how do you do that? And how do you navigate it and do it authentically and honestly and from a place that is approachable? And yoga to me was never approachable. It was terrifying. And I would go to classes and, it's like they were speaking another language. And that is what I try really hard to avoid. When this yoga studio that I went to, the Yoga House in Kingston, they had everybody say hi. This is pre-panorama.
Uh-huh.
Said it. They had you greet one another in the classroom, and I was like, eyes in the back of the head, like, what is this? Update? And I'm like, woo! Everybody say hi. Let's all chat.
Right. Yeah.
My enthusiasm starts to get the better of me when I talk about this stuff. So I'm going to pause there.
No, it's beautiful because it shows that their passion, not just of yoga, but how yoga has impacted you and how you want to share that with others, so that way they can see the value of it in their own lives. And you and I have often talked about the type of yoga that we love to provide to community. It's not about doing handstands and like, oh, can you throw your leg over your head? And it's like, no, how can you show up in a way that supports you? What tools can you learn from this practice that can help you in your day-to-day? Like you said, it's a lifestyle. It's not, day-to-day, do you have to do a split? Do you have to do a handstand? Or if you are being consumed with meetings and being pulled in different directions, do you need to know how to breathe so you can ground yourself? No, which one of those, and I'm not knocking any teacher that teaches that, but we're just saying, as far as putting some tools in your tool chest that you can pull from when life happens.
It's a spectrum. And I was about to say, and you said it, is, I remember being in an Ashtanga yoga class, which, is a very physically intensive series. And it's beautiful. It's really beautiful to watch. And it can be modified and it's accessible. And the teachers I had really made it, because I have arthritis and I have scoliosis, I have back issues and I have the knee issues and just the general age flexibility issues. And so I struggled when I first got it, and I wasn't a long-time practitioner. So I felt so supported in that community. But there was a woman who was practicing in the studio, and I remember being like, whoa, like her practice was, I mean, textbook perfect. And her mom was there, and I happened to be right next to her mom. So this woman is practicing in front of us, and her mom is in this, which is also equally impressive. The woman was probably in her 20s or 30s. And her mom, I said, wow. I said, is that your daughter? They looked very similar. And I was like, is that your daughter? And she was like, yes. And she was obviously watching her practice and so proud. And what her mom said to me was, she's worked so hard. And that's where I really feel like, and this has been true for me in my business, right? It's so easy with social media to be like, but I'm never going to get there. And you forget that the people who got there have been doing this and showing up and hustling and making the contacts. And, nothing happens overnight. And I was just so struck by how proud the mom was. But she acknowledged how much work, and I can't, I haven't put the time in that she has. And so I don't get to do that pose yet. And there's a phrase, I wish I could remember. I have like all these notes all over the place. There's a phrase for it, and I'll think of it, but, or I'll give it to you for the show notes. But it's like, if you haven't worked for it, you don't get it. It's like theft, right? I feel like it's in, it's non-stealing in the yamas, right? This idea of satya, right? No, that's truthfulness. Ashteya, non-stealing. Mm-hmm. This idea that like being envious, like that I want what she has, I don't get to do it because I haven't done the work, and you have to put the work in to get where she is. And so, and maybe I don't want to put the work in for that. That's not my goal. But for me, leaving my job, and I don't recommend, most people can't leave their job. I'm incredibly blessed that I could, and I worked hard for it, but I had a lot of opportunity, and, my life choices led me to a place where I could do that, or my opportunities led me to a place where I could do that. But I had no idea what I wanted to do. In my head, I want to be her. But do I really care about that? What do I care about? I had no idea. Like, I'm sitting there in 2019, like, what do I want to do? I have no idea what I want to do. And it was my sister who turned to me and said, I'd been going through this busy time at work, and after I went upstate, and we go to the Dutchess County Fair in upstate New York every August. And I went up a few days before my sister's family, and I was just taking yoga classes back at the studio and, living my best life in upstate New York, like taking hikes and, being really disconnected from work because it was really slow in August, and we had just come off this really eventful period. And my sister came up, and I guess I just look like a totally different person. Like, we don't know, we don't see it. Other people see the change before we see the change.
That's so true.
And
so true.
She turns to me one night and she goes, Irene, you're so happy up here. Like, why don't you just do this? Like, you're going to be 45. You don't have kids. Like, if not now, when? Like, when are you going to do what makes you happy? And I immediately, in that moment, sitting there in her kitchen, was in a full-on panic. Like, oh my God. Because immediately I'm like, I have to do this now. Now, that might have been my instinct being like, yeah, you need to do this now. But it was more like, how am I going to do this? I can't do this. And you could immediately like feel myself closing off from this idea, like clinging to what I knew and was wonderful, but maybe it's not wonderful for me. Like, I want job security, and I want financial success, and but for what? If I was so depleted all the time. Right. And I'm not depleted because I'm raising a family. I'm not depleted because I'm dealing with sick parents, or, all the, like, there's a lot of, or I'm dealing with, like, there's so many reasons people are depleted and need a job. And I was depleted because I was overdoing it and not focusing on the right things. And I didn't even know what the right things were. It was terrifying. And we went through my list. Like, what are my expenses? Like, she got into brass tacks so fast, it made my head spin. But when we sat down and looked at it, like, I led a pretty simple life. I mean, it became even more simple in 2020, right? Because you can't go anywhere and you can't do anything.
Right.
And I was like, so that was in, I can tell you the date, because the next morning, I bought the newspaper. I was reading the New York Times and sort of reading it, but, just having it to touch it and feel it and not actually read it. And I can tell you the date because it was Thursday, August 22nd when we had that conversation, because the next morning I woke up and the New York Times, this section of the New York Times, can't see, it was the Thursday styles. And it was a story about this fashion icon who said, and it had crossed out and it said, the woman's name doesn't miss fashion at all. She has other plans. And my sister, in pencil, because we couldn't find a pen, no state, crossed out the name, and she wrote, Irene Baker doesn't miss JP Morgan at all. She has other plans. And I still have this, and I feel like I should frame it at some point, and maybe put my head there,
Yeah, but, I think you should do that.
But I just, you want to talk about like this watershed moment, and I went into work. It was late, coming up on Labor Day, and I talked to my immediate boss and I told her what I was thinking about. And she was like, you need to do this. Like, I get it. And wow. And weirdly, I didn't like, what do you mean you're not going to miss me? Like, immediately go into like, what are you going to do without me? But you know what? Like, be a worker among workers. Like, it was a gift. And I stayed for a while after and transitioned and took time. And it was just that moment where you're like, this is it. Like, then I had to actually do the thing, right? Like, not even just put it out there, like, all right, I'm leaving. This is what I'm going to do. Everybody's like, that's amazing, pursuing your dreams. And I'm like, I don't know. It just sounds okay. Cause I don't know what I want, but I know it's not this, right? Like, I have no idea, and you know what? If nothing else, all these jobs I had gave me the flexibility. They consumed all my time and energy. And so now I have the flexibility, because where was I going to spend money that I was making? Because I couldn't go anywhere because I was working all the time. So it's like this self-fulfilling prophecy of, luckily for me, it gave me that flexibility. So then it's, 2020 and I'm going to travel. And so I would just say first, like, quitting your job is not for everybody, right? Like, I get that. It's not possible for most people. But I feel so grateful, because if I didn't stop, I was never going to do it. And I would have driven myself into the ground and continued on that path. And I would have been fine. I had a good life. But now I get this opportunity to take a step back. And when the kids my niece and nephew were being, had remote learning, I could be helpful to my sister and brother-in-law. Not right out of the gate, but certainly in 2020 as things continued in the new school year. And, I got to hang with my parents. They're right across the street. And so like I got to be there and hang out, and like, we cooked a lot more. And so it's just, I thought I would be traveling and taking teacher trainings and living this kind of Instagram life.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
But you know what? I got time. And then I actually had like looked around. I was like, oh, I got to start this business. Like, I'm used to like, oh, you tell me what to do and I go do it for you, employer of whatever I'm doing. Right. But now it's like, oh, I have to do this. And yeah, I'm a hard worker, but I don't know that I ever had the vision, and maybe I did. Like, look, you don't want to sell yourself short, but like, I don't know, I'm a soldier. Like, I can get it done. I am your project manager. You want this, I'll build this. I'll figure out how to get it done. I can be creative, but you want me to build a business based on my vision? I didn't know what that was. And that can be scary. Very terrifying. Scary. Yeah. And then, you put yourself out there, and who am I to say and do? And, it opens up this can of worms for like, who am I to be teaching yoga? I'm not South Asian. I didn't come from that culture. Am I being, respectful of the culture from which I am taking these teachings? Like, what does all of this mean? And I really still struggle, but you learn, and you look for the teachers that can help guide you and make sure that you are doing things in a way that's respectful and lifts up, all types of practices and all types of people. So I just, for me, there's, it's imposter syndrome. I always had it, like waiting for somebody to show and be like, you don't belong here. This was such a mistake. And in a job, but I'm a lawyer, and you can kind of say like, but wait, like, I've done all these things. Now I'm all of a sudden a yoga teacher among millions of yoga teachers all over the world. And like, you look at these beautiful Instagram pages and these huge followings, and you're like, what does this mean for me? And what does? So when we talk about, if the topic of conversation is redefining success, I am like in the thick of that right now for my business. And like, I taught for free for like a year, because I just panicked and was like, I don't know what to do. So I did nothing. Like, I was like, it's nobody's doing anything. I'm just gonna not do anything. And then, except I took a ton of yoga. I was practicing yoga all the time. And then a friend of mine was like, can you please, she's got twins. She's like home. She's doing OT. She's an OT, and she's doing that remote. Like, how do you even do that?
Oh my goodness.
And, she's working in the public schools, and her kids are remote learning, and her husband's still going to work because he's an essential worker. It's chaos in her house. She's no help. And she's got an elderly mom, and it's like chaos. So she's like, could you please teach yoga class? And she is not a yoga. She has been to like 2 classes total in the last 2 years, whatever. But she got me started. Like the same friend, it wasn't the same friend, but the one who was like, go do the teacher training. Shut up and do the teacher training. Same thing. My friend was like, could you just please, I'm losing my mind. So she got me to get a Zoom account and figured the thing out and do the thing. And then I started teaching once a weekend, and then twice a weekend, and then every day, and people kept showing up, and it saved my life, because I, was home by myself, me and my folks across the street. And for the first couple months, I didn't see my sister, and, didn't see anybody. And so it was my lifeline, and I'm so grateful. And those people showed up for whatever reason, yoga, to see one another, who knows? We did challenges, like we were doing plank challenges. Like, it was like,
I love it.
Type stuff. Like, let's just have a laugh.
Yeah.
And then I had another friend call me like the end of 2020. It was like, all right, what's this? You're not charging for yoga. Like, what is this? She owns her own business. That's not going to work. We're going to get you some clients. And so next thing you know, I'm coming up with some pricing, and it is like game on. So it's, it's sort of building one thing. So what does success look like for me right now? Success is exactly what I'm doing right now. Success is making my own schedule. Success is seeing people that the 4 people who show up every day to my yoga classes in 2020 are completely different than the 4 people who show up now. Like, it's a community that we build together, and it ebbs and flows, but it's so nice. Like, I love these people, and I feel such a connection. I teach chair yoga, and today we had, it's Tuesday, chair yoga today, and it's my most well-attended class. My mom doesn't miss it. Hi, Bon. And one of the women got on, this one woman got on, and she goes, I can't make it to class, but I just wanted to say hi to everybody. And tell you I'm all right, and I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and I'll see you guys on Thursday. I was like, this is amazing. Like, I don't know. I'm like, it's just such a wonderful thing. Like, on Zoom, we get to build this thing. And so, for me right now, success is setting up the software so that I can, have this, I had a friend of mine who's a yoga teacher say, it's an energetic exchange. I'm like, whatever, I get it. Like, this feels weird, but I'm just going to I'm so wildly uncomfortable with charging for asking. I needed software to do it because the whole idea that I would have to track people down, it would just,
not
I feel like yoga teachers are generally broke, but I feel like that would be a disaster for me. It's just not the way I'm built. So success right now is just continuing to teach, put out, keep creating content and staying, that people are interested in. I say content because it's just like social media, but I mean, like coming up with practices that are meaningful and that I think are doable and that resonate with people and get them excited about getting on the mat. Because I get excited and I love to talk about yoga and, I like connecting with people and it feels so good. So I never know what I am doing. I really don't, but I know it's right. Like what I'm doing right now may not be what I'm doing in 6 months or a year, but I know that I'm on the right path. Like it's so diametrically opposed to what my, the way I was raised to think about work and value my time and where I want my energy to go and what do I want to be. And, it can be so isolating. You and I have talked about this, right? We're in houses doing our planning and does this make sense? And, it's why our friendship has blossomed so much because who would have thought that the two of us.
I never thought this would happen. You could have never told me this would happen.
I had somebody who's, from one of my prior lives found out I was teaching yoga because somebody they knew was taking the class was like, she's really good at it. And I didn't know this person taking the class, but they knew somebody who knew me. And they were like, Irene Baker's teaching what? Like, because I am shot out of a cannon all the time. And so like quieting my mind is, I have to, when I don't teach, I don't practice. When I teach, because I feel like such an imposter, I practice because I want to learn. And
same way. Yeah.
That part of my brain that's like, well, I can't teach if I'm not learning, which is a great way to be. But if I'm not teaching, I'm not like, I'm just like, I'll watch whatever. I can fall into the, scrolling or watching stupid stuff on TV or whatever it is. And I love teaching because I like connecting with people. But then on the flip side of it, to keep it interesting and to feel like I'm bringing the best that I can to people and being of service, I need to be learning. And, Svadhyaya, this idea of self-study in the 8 limbs of yoga, one of the kind of ethical disciplines, as we know, is that was, again, just flipping back to like my yoga teacher training. I'm like, I'm going to do some postures. Like literally had no idea what I was getting myself into. And we got into Svadhyaya and self-study. And again, I go back to how grateful I am for the people I have in my life. You had to do the octopus on the face. Like, what are your strengths and weaknesses? And go to people you trust in different aspects of your life. You couldn't be related to them. What an eye-opening experience. But to put myself out there with people I knew and loved and respected, like, who's going to do that? Like, I don't, maybe people are way more open than I am, but I wasn't going to do that voluntarily. Like, I was terrified of what people were going to say. And it was a really eye-opening, in good and bad ways. Like, people are honest. like, you're going to ask people's opinion. They're going to give it to you. And I went into it, like, just tell, like, really, I was, again, like, when you're willing and when you open yourself up to all of this, you're like, it's pretty eye-opening. And I feel so blessed that I've gotten to do this. And it feels like, I got to tell you, I was like, this conversation is so premature. Like, I don't know. But for me right now, today, success is making my own schedule, connecting with people I care about that are interested in the kind of yoga that moves me. And that means making it accessible and making it digestible so that, anybody who shows up to any of my classes, I hope, feels welcome and feels like, and walks out not feeling like, I don't know what just happened. Like, that they feel like they connected, even over Zoom, to me, that they feel a little lighter, that, I don't know. Success is just being able to do what I'm doing right now. Like, this is it. Like, if I have one person show up in the morning, that's all I care about. Like, I like to keep the mic on and let them ask questions, and whatever happens. I'm just trusting right now. I'm so just trusting a process that I made a decision 2 years ago. I can't believe it's been 2 years. The world has turned upside down, and so many people have been through such traumatic, terrible things that, that have been going on. It's not like any of this is, but the pandemic has heightened all of this. There's been such loss, and it's just a different world. And I feel like people are dealing with so much more, and I'm just grateful to have this opportunity to be able to teach and share and figure out a way to get people to show up to do yoga. Like, you can't be like, do yoga, come on.
Right, exactly.
Come do some yoga. Like, that's not going to work. It wouldn't have worked with me.
Yeah.
I found my way here in my own way, and people will find, if I can be the beacon that brings them in, and maybe they practice with me, maybe they go somewhere else. It's okay. Like, maybe I'm doing this for 6 months. Maybe I'm doing this for 6 years. Maybe I'm doing this, God willing, if I say 60, I'd be 107, but
Well, I think that's the key to of this conversation we're having tonight, is that, what does success mean? Success mean that will continue to evolve. Whatever, we're kind of in this space and time, and I think as people, because we've been conditioned that we have to have it all figured out at all times. And I say that knowing that sometimes it is scary when you don't have it figured out. But I think that's because we've been so conditioned that we have to have it all figured out. So when we don't, it's like, oh my God, so what am I going to do in 10 years? What am I going to do in 20 years? So it doesn't mean that you just kind of have no plan and you're just kind of like flopping in the wind. It's important to have roots. But it's sometimes, it's almost like what that old saying, where it's like you're kind of building the plane, like flying the plane while you're building or something along those lines. Yeah, I think I totally messed that up, but I'm glad that you understood what I was saying.
I think we said it all the time.
So that's, and that's okay. So if you do not have it all figured out. So I wanted to mention that a couple people did have comments. Basement Mike says the lockdowns exposed. So this is when we were talking about the lockdowns and how that was impacting people. We kind of have touched upon that again. But he says,
and I don't mean to ignore the comments, by the way, but I cannot multitask. That skill went out with my employment in traditional work, so I apologize.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So put it here so that way it's a little bit clear for us both to see. So Baseman Awaken says lockdowns expose the truth about a lot of relationships, and for some people, it gave them the time to think about what they wanted, what they want out of life. So true. And then Joanne Baker. This is when this is when you were talking about the newspaper, and she said, I remember like it was yesterday. And then we have Tian that says, this is so empowering. Thank you for giving the voice to inner thoughts. So a lot of people, whether it be because of the panorama or because they just like, there's something more. I don't think that this is it for me, but I don't know what that other thing is. I just know this isn't it. I think what you've expressed is how you can begin to figure that out is through hitting the pause button. Because if you just keep going, you're not making space for you to kind of explore and to begin to say, okay, what does mind, body, spirit need right now? What do I just kind of need? Not like so much of what do I have to dive headfirst and commit to totally, but what do I just need right now in this moment? And it seems as though through that experience that you had when you were able to go upstate and just kind of explore, it's just that you needed that time for you and not to give it, like you said, as far as your energy, not to give it to something else, whether it be a career or what have you. But it's like, I need my energy for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I know right now.
I'm in it. Like I'm I'm all or nothing. Like I'm in it 100%. Like it's 100 miles an hour. And so same with my rests, right? Like it's so necessary. It's the one, like we can't live without sleep and water. Like, there's a lot of things, but rest is important. And I think just taking a moment to talk about the pause, like my pause was pretty dramatic. And, the global pause was dramatic and traumatic and brings up a lot of stuff. And how do we process all that, right? The changes in relationships, where you are in your life, in your family, in what's your role? Like, where do you want to be is so, we're going through day to day. We're commuting, we're making dinner, we're doing, you're raising a family, you're going to school, right? You're getting your second master's degree. What's like, we're all doing we're trying to stay healthy. We're trying to eat the right things. We're trying to not to eat too much crap. But the crap is easy. So like we're doing a million things. And so when do you find the time in the everyday, right? Not like, let's dramatically quit our jobs. And maybe some people are doing that. And I think, the last 18 months have created that opportunity for people to move or shift or do things. But how do you do that every day? And what does that look like every day? And so my challenge, and I know you're doing this in December, is the 10-minute, quick bites of yoga. And how do you, I say this, sometimes I feel like I get boring when I teach, but there are certain elements that I feel really strongly in my practice have helped me remember that practice is not about, my yoga practice is not all about asana and doing the poses. That my practice, or what I try and make the practice that I do and that I teach, is the pause. And so we always begin every class connecting to the breath. And maybe everybody does this. I don't know. Like for me, saying we are taking this time to connect to the breath. We use the breath as the foundation to our entire practice. And we connect to the breath because connecting to the breath is the practice, right? It's hard. It's your mind is going a million miles an hour all the time.
Right.
Coming back to
it's like after I get done with this pause, I have to go and get groceries.
I think what somebody did me recently, like, I gotta make chili. Like you kept reminding me, come back from the corn, the chili. Like it's just come on back. And it happens to me when I teach, and I catch myself and then something immediately goes awry in my head. Maybe the students don't realize, but if my mind wanders, I know something is off. And that presence in our practice, for me, it's really important to remind people, like, we're doing this here because when we're out there and you're frustrated or you're agitated or you're just feeling off, take that deep breath in. Reconnect to this moment when we're all together and we're all calm at 5:15 in the morning and it's all is quiet and it's still dark and I can't see anybody on their Zoom screens. Like I'm looking at kneecaps. You come back to that and that pause and, setting an intention in your practice. Yeah. And I try to make it like, I think about it for myself. Like what is a feeling or sensation that I need today? Like, if I know I'm going to have a frustrating day or somebody's trying my patience, I need patience. I need gratitude. I'm feeling like, I'm just off and I'm tired. And I'm angry and I'm showing up on the mat and that's how people show up. My sister, again, great. So she sets it out for me. Like we were practicing. She was my willing student when I was learning, and she turns to, and I'm like, is everything okay? Like, yeah, you feel okay? And how's this? And she's like, just teach. This performa kind of thing I had to teach, and you had to prepare this one practice. I taught it. My sister must have done it 100 times. And she goes, sometimes people don't want to be here. They just don't want to be here, but they know it's good for them, and they know they'll feel better afterwards, but they're just trying to get through it. So like, not everybody's showing. I need to show up that way. So if I'm off, I gotta, tamp that down, pack that away, and show up. But your students are allowed to show up however they show up, and then you hopefully guide. You take a minute and you say like, what? Help me help you. Like, but I'm just sort of like cueing into the universe and saying like, help me here, like what's the right thing? And you talk in the beginning and you ask people where they're at and who shows up, right? Like you make it, it's not about me and what I thought I was going to teach that day. It's about who shows up and how you do it. And so I'm looking forward to learning more and train. I'm like a student. So I'm like, how many
always a student, right? Yeah.
Like sign me up for the classes, because I know I am a white cisgender woman, and I able-bodied in many ways despite my knees and my back and all the things. Like what can I learn from others, and how am I going to adjust my teaching to better reflect the people that I want to teach who wouldn't normally show up in a yoga class, because it's it's everybody can benefit from yoga. It's just that pause. If it's only for the pause, right? The asana practice is one sutra. It's one. Just all, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, it's one. So it's, asana is not the basis. It's everything else. There's 8 limbs, and the poses are only one, and what is all the rest of it, and how do we practice these principles in all of our affairs? What does that mean? Like,
right.
All not on the mat, everywhere we go, and what does that mean? And it's challenging, and it's a lot of work. It's what did I say before? It's like, I don't want a 9 to 5, so I work 24/7.
Yes.
It is. It's a path, and it's a lifestyle, but again, it's like, my friend gave me this candle. I'll post it at some point, and it's like, I do yoga to burn off the crazy. I can't.
I like that.
Right. So it's like, if anybody thinks I'm all of a sudden like, oh, I'm on the spiritual path and all this, I really do believe all of that. But every day is it's not easy every day. And I think my mission at this point is to try and figure out 10-minute yoga practices, because it is, we're at time almost, and I'm like, I have so much more to talk about, but I feel like that with you all the time. How do you make this digestible and accessible to everybody? Like all the, everybody's coming at it from a different place, but time is such a hurdle. Money is a hurdle. Cost, there's so much out there, but how do you find the right fit for you? And for me, time is right now the hardest thing for people, and doing something that feels good and that they can do in a time frame that works for them. So that's why I teach at 5:15. One person shows up. That's sometimes in the beginning it was just me and my sister, which I have her to thank for this little journey I'm on. So the least I can do is yoga at 5:15 in the morning.
So thank you. I love it.
Standard time. So you West Coast people are out of luck, but unless you're coming home.
So this was awesome. And I think, for those that are listening, I'm sure a lot of what Irene has shared with us that it resonates with, as far as beginning to figure out, maybe I do need to take a new path in my life. Maybe what I thought I had to do, maybe it's going to start looking different, and starting to be okay with how it looks differently. And I think too, when you start making these changes, especially if you're going to a space, when you're kind of going into wellness from the careers that we were in, some people may be like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? Like when you said the one friend. And I think that's important, because somebody may think like, oh my God, if I leave this career that everybody knows me as, and I go like sell healing crystals somewhere, what are my colleagues going to think? They're going to think I lost my mind. So it's important that you begin to discover what brings you happiness, what brings you joy, what makes you feel purpose. And if it is you holding up crystals and Instagram and saying, hey, this is whatever type of crystal, rose quartz or what have you, and this is the benefits, then that's something that you pursue. That, we weren't placed on this earth just to basically appease others. Like, we came here to have an incredible experience, and through what we've gone through, what we've experienced, I should say, is to help other people live out their passions, live out their purpose, find their purpose. And so the two just kind of go hand in hand, with us discovering our purpose and then helping another person find theirs. And so that really can't be done if we are so stuck on what other people are going to think. How are other people going to perceive me? We have no control over how others will perceive us. So I'm so grateful, Irene, that we were able to reconnect and really have this conversation, because I think this is so important, because I'm sure a lot of people are thinking through. I like that. Hold the dark crystal, it makes you happy. That's right. People are going to talk, right? People are going to talk regardless. So you might as well do what you believe that you're placed on this earth to do. And if you're still figuring out, it's okay.
And you'll find your people, right? Like,
yes,
we found each other again. We got each,
exactly.
Like we were connected when we worked together, and then we came back together because you find your people. And I'll keep it secular, but it's just, who you are is the universe's gift to you. Who you become is your gift to the universe, right? So we get to choose and look, everybody's path is different and everybody's opportunities are different, but we're all here for a reason. And what that purpose is, we need to really going a million miles an hour it's what we're sort of, I felt like I was certainly, maybe not in my home, but out there in the work world, was trained like, you are going and you are achieving and you are, what's the next thing that you're going to do? Because it's always the next thing. What's the next goal? Rest, rest, just take the minute to say, what do I need in this? And for it doesn't have to be this big dramatic thing. It can just be like, something's not right. I didn't even know when I didn't feel right. And to take that moment to pause and say, what do I need? And not in a selfish way, but what's missing here? What's off? Why am I feeling this way? Because something is, it could be me, it could be them, but whatever it is, it's not okay. And, tapping into that instinct, that inner wisdom, that's that higher self, that spark of the divine in each of us. That's what we need to pause to listen to, because our instincts are usually right. If our motives are good, then, hopefully the outcome matches that, but it doesn't always, but you keep trying and do better. So
yeah, it's all.
I'm so cognizant that we are running out of time.
Yes. Yes. So we're going to wrap up our conversation. So with that being said, Irene, could you share with those that are listening where they can find more information about your teaching? If they want to attend one of your classes, how can they find you?
So it's peacefulbakeryoga.com. And I'm online. You can reach me on my website. There's a contact note. There's classes all times of the day. There's videos on demand. There's free videos, and working through all of that. But if you want to contact me, my website is the best place to find me, peacefulbakeryoga.com. And I'm just so happy to be here with you, Kai. I feel like we could, when we've done it, talk for hours.
Yes, we have talked for hours. And it's like, okay, we got to go. And it's like, but one more thing.
I know.
That's usually how it goes.
Yes. So, and then it would just be me and you and my mom still on 2 hours from now. She'd be listening. Maybe my sister.
But we're all talking about things that I know a lot of people can relate to, and that's really resonating with a lot of folks that are listening. So thank you so much. For those that are listening, if you enjoyed the conversation tonight, which I'm sure that you did, please make sure you give this video a thumbs up, and please also share and also subscribe to the Healing Element podcast. I hope that you join me next Tuesday right here for another live episode. And we'll be talking about how to prioritize your mental health during the holiday season, especially if this is the first season that you're dealing with grief or loss. So you definitely want to make sure you join us for that conversation. And you can find out more information about the services that I provide by visiting kaimarie.com. And I hope you all have a wonderful night, and we will be talking to you soon.
Thank you.